When people speak of the pyramids, most often one will picture the lands of Egypt and the history of the ancient pharaohs. In reality, the land just south of Egypt was just as involved in these events. The Egyptians and the Nubians' lives were entwined both politically and culturally. The Nubians gained power and during the 25th dynasty ruled over the Egyptians. They even served as the pharaoh. The Nubians lived on land that is now modern-day Sudan. The question is, how did they go from ruling over one of the most powerful civilizations of mankind to struggling to survive against the failures of society? The Nubians left Egypt and returned to their lands. At this time, the land that would become Sudan was known as Kush. They established a capital in Meroe, and that is where they built the pyramids in honor of their leaders. By the 4th century, the kingdom was weakening and it fell apart. The next group to rule the area was the Rashidun Caliphate, an Islamic group. This took place during the 7th century, and at that time, the Caliphate had power over most of the region. This set the stage for the destruction of the modern era. The 19th century was a time of external rulers, colonialism, and extremist violent movements in Sudan. In the late 1880s, Muhammad Ahmad came to the forefront as the Mahdi, or Messianic Redeemer of the Islamic faith in Sudan. The Mahdist rule was one of violence, and in 1883 they massacred the Egyptian army that had come into Sudan. Despite a changeover in leadership, the Mahdists were able to hold off the Egyptians and their additional allies, the British. But by 1898, the Mahdists were no longer able to stand their ground, and the Anglo-Egyptian forces took over the land. This ushered in a new era of external leadership on the Sudanese lands. Even the Egyptians and the British were unable to coordinate over the leadership of Sudan, and by 1924, the English forced the Egyptians out of Sudan. Soon after the Egyptians left, the biggest trade of the Sudanese, slavery, was outlawed. The Muslim Brotherhood began to gain power in Sudan. Religion was a key difference between the northern region and the southern region of Sudan. In the north, the people were mostly Arabic and Muslim, and in the south, there were representations of both Christian and animist. These differences played a key role in the conflicts that are still continuing. In 2011, Sudan was split in two. The north kept the name, and the southern region is now known as South Sudan. The independence referendum was not the end of the conflict in Sudan and South Sudan. The rebels in Darfur raged their violence on the western region of Sudan. The genocide in this region darkened the era, and although international efforts have been made to stop the influx of weapons into the region, the use of child soldiers and slaughtering of entire villages did not stop. On July 11, 2016, news came to the forefront that South Sudan was nearing the possibility of another civil war. The fighting in the capital is quickly spinning out of control, and there is a heavy chance that the future of South Sudan is quickly headed towards another war.